Hey everyone, it's Jamie from BestNerdLife. First up, a quick shout out to Labrador Studios and Gravity Gamer Rise for providing me with a preview code. Live by the Sword Tactics proudly wears its heart on its sleeve. It's a throwback to old school tactical RPGs like Final Fantasy Tactics, and I do think it captures that essence rather well. But let's dive deeper into this homage to games past and see exactly what it's all about. One of the standout aspects of this game is the pixel art. Character portraits are nicely detailed, and the sprite work is also very well done. I wish there was more variety with the environments, but the battlegrounds are pretty to look at though, and it's very satisfying to spin the camera around them. There is an impressive amount of content to play through when eventually unlocked. The story is available right from the start, along with multiplayer and skirmish modes. Adventure and Tactician both unlock after finishing the first and second acts of the story, respectively. There's also a Battlefield board creator that will be available in a post-launch update. Now, if players are familiar with any kind of turn-based tactical type gameplay, then battles are easy enough to follow. For those new, the tutorial that is available is mandatory before playing the story mode. It's fairly in-depth when explaining the mechanics, and there's even a little pop quiz in there too. Overall, the story didn't seem to pose much of a challenge for me, unless you count the annoying difficulty spike around the 5th mission. This made me have to play the scenario again and again, and this is kind of what the game is about. It did cause me to change up my tactics and actually think about where I put my man. In the end, I felt like it was a bit of a fluke that got me through. One of the enemies missed me at a critical point in the battle, and that helped turn the tide. There was a few more difficulty spikes, mostly involving a heavily reduced combat team, but for the most part the story seemed pretty easy. You see, Live by the Sword is a tactics game without a progression system. No experience points or levelling up. This means if a player is stuck on a certain mission, there's no option to replay a previous one or fight some extra, weaker enemies to build up stats. There's no cheesing through with high levels. If the player loses the battle, it's because they're going about it the wrong way, and they need to strategize their way to victory with the tools and team they are given. To be honest, when I first saw this was a feature, it did kind of put me off. There are a few extra abilities available for each character outside their initial set of 4 unique abilities, but it does quickly get repetitive using the same actions each battle. Sure, I could switch up my roster of active battlers and shuffle up what moves they had, but it sometimes felt like I was banging my head against the wall. There is also a good variety of enemies to go up against to mix things up. New members of the party are drip-fed throughout the story to keep things interesting too. I know that a lack of character progression is an intended feature, but it made it very hard for me to become invested in my team. This becomes even more apparent in other modes. Tactician mode tasks the player with defeating each group of enemies in as few turns as possible. Each mission is endlessly replayable and is scored with 3 possible rankings. There are unique rule sets to some missions too, giving an extra twist to the challenge. This mode really highlights the idea of replaying missions and trying to get the best possible outcome by modifying your tactics. Adventure mode is essentially the game's roguelite section. The player starts with a random selection of characters and must use their wits and the gold they amass to clear out increasingly challenging enemy encampments. One of the best parts of this mode is the ability to place locations on a world map, essentially creating your own adventure as you go. Overall, it's probably better to think of the people you move around as merely a representation of a class rather than a truly fleshed out character with individual levels and progression. Having said that, there's a good variation of job classes with more coming in the future. Now, I do want to quickly mention post-launch content. At the time of recording this video, there is a pretty substantial roadmap over the next few months. Like I mentioned before, this does include a board builder, as well as ranked online matches. Adventure mode updates are also planned, along with at least 9 other character classes. That's a fairly decent offering to look forward to. I'm not sure if they will make it compatible with the Steam Deck, and it's not something I can currently test out. At its core, Live by the Sword Tactics seems to be a game that is wider than it is deep. There's a wide variety of playable content to experience, which is accompanied by a competent battle system. As an RPG fan, I enjoy having ever-increasing stats and numbers thrown my way, so the lack of this kind of hurt my enjoyment. Aside from that, I think this is a solid little tactics game, one that I would like to jump back into once more content is available. And that was my thoughts about Live by the Sword Tactics. If you enjoyed this video, then by all means like, comment, subscribe, do all that social media goodness, and as always, keep living that best nerd life.